I think that's a good break. And you talked about Joe Burrow. I think that's a good segue to now move on then to the next game. Bengals went into Buffalo and even thought that they were at a disadvantage because it was being played in Buffalo. We thought that should be a neutral site game with everything that happened with DeMar Hamlin's injury. But man, it honestly looked like the snow hindered Buffalo a lot more than the Bengals dominated from the start. I think it was 4.5 minutes. They went down and scored a touchdown to Jamar Chase, and it looked like they were just in the backyard. The Bengals looked very good.
So one of the things that I want to highlight here, I'm going to talk about Buffalo here for a brief second. We'll go back to Kansas City. Buffalo's defense had a litany of injuries, both before and during this game. And like, when you're going against Jamar Chase with Tre'Davious White and then like practice squad guys, that is not a good recipe. And what the Bengals were able to come in here and do was extremely impressive, given the fact that they were expected to be dominated on both sides of the football in the trenches.
Yeah.
And then dominated on both sides of the football in the trenches.
Yeah.
It was a complete performance.
That's what and that to me was the biggest takeaway. And we try and do these where we separate the critique and then like what to expect for the losing team in the offseason. But I think let's just kind of, when we break this out, just include all this, because that was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
I am surprised. Joe Mixon had over 100 yards rushing.
Yeah.
And it felt like every time he ran the ball, it just felt like it was 5 yards guaranteed.
Yeah.
Every single time.
So 20 for 105 was his.
So yeah. So yeah. Oh, okay. So then I was pretty right. I didn't even know that it was that many carries, but I was shocked by that, especially too highlighting the 3 offensive line injuries with Jonah Williams, L. Collins, and Alex Kapp all being out. And this Bills front, defensive front,
played injured.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
He got rolled up on.
He did. I remember seeing that. And so now you have this battered offensive line, and we're all thinking like last year, like Joe Burrow better look out. And even without Von Miller, and I think that is a big loss. That is a big loss. But you still have Ed Oliver, Gregory Rousseau. You still got guys that can still got guys that can get after the quarterback, that can slow him down, stop the run, and it was just a manhandling.
And one of the things too that was really impressive with this offensive line. Buffalo loves to bring linebacker blitzes with Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds. They picked up on almost every single one. It was crazy to watch this like well-oiled machine that usually takes a whole season to develop. And it's like they did it in a week with 5 guys. It was that was crazy to me, was this offensive line. And then the defensive line getting pressure on Josh Allen with just 4. They had, I guess they only had 1 sack, but 8 QB hits. Like I felt like they were back there all day.
Yeah.
So
that's and for me, and I guess just final thing on the Bengals, but it's like they look so professional.
Yeah.
They just went in there, took care of. They had a sales meeting. They nailed it. Did a great presentation, and then now they're heading home for the next presentation. Now that's just what it seemed like it is, even from the start when they got the kickoff, and that combination of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, it's like Joe Burrow's a great quarterback. I think he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
He is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fair. He is. When you have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on opposite sides of the ball, it makes it look really easy to look really good. And the scheming that Zach Taylor, and I'm blanking on their offensive coordinator, I know what it is, but they had every single answer for Buffalo's defense. Shoot, even Jamar Chase's first touchdown, Joe Burrow's running out to the left. I think Joe Burrow makes the linebacker on the shallow receiver to the left. Then Jamar Chase just creeps out up over top. There's no one within 10 yards of him. He walks right in. Great scheme, but it also shows how great Joe Burrow is, that he can also what he can do with the ball, and how T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And then Hayden Hurst, also their tight end, had a great game. He had a touchdown as well.
Yeah,
they just have a lot of weapons. Oh yeah,
Yeah, he had 5 for 60 in a touchdown, Hayden
yeah.
Hurst. So for me, this looked like a Patriots team, right? Like they ran the ball first so well,
Hmm.
and then it opened up everything else. And
Yeah,
like the way that they executed it over all 60 minutes, just the sustained like 7-minute drives, right? 3rd and 3, you get 4 yards. Like
yeah,
it's that type of drive just completely demoralizes defenses.
yeah.
And they did that for 60 minutes today. It was
Well,
a great performance.
oh yeah, and like like you see that now, and it's like I think that what was the spread? Because I think everyone thought Buffalo was going to come in
Buffalo
and
was at they were 5.5-point favorites.
see, and we both picked the Bengals to win, and it's like I just didn't see. Like I wasn't going to be surprised if Buffalo won. Like not to say that
In
like,
a
but but
27-24 last second field goal type of game. Like
yeah, yeah, and they just looked off, and I'm trying to even think of what to improve on.
so
And trenches, yes, I think that they had some injuries, and like if Von Miller comes back, get better at the trenches. But I'm trying to think really what the team can improve on because I know that they were hurt a lot. Uh, but going into the
so
offseason, like I
secondary for me,
secondary, yes,
Jordan
yeah,
Poyer and what's their other safety's name? Who
Not Minka Fitzpatrick,
Micah Hyde. Micah Hyde.
Micah Hyde, yeah,
He got hurt pretty early on in the year. So like him coming back will help. But both of those guys are approaching 30 or they're already both over 30. Tremaine Edmonds is a free agent. Matt Milano is also approaching 30, I want to say.
yeah,
However, it doesn't sound like Tremaine Edmonds is going to be able to come back. I think they're going to get outbid for him unless he decides to take a pay cut and stay. Um, so
yeah,
but that for me, this defense, offensive line, they started to do this a little bit in the regular season, but establishing a solid running game, like traditional running game, I think would open up a lot for this offense.
yeah.
Like because right now nobody's really biting on their play action,
I agree, I
and
agree.
so
Well,
solidifying
and
that
then
O line.
I think that point then well, and then I think the establishing more of a run game and solidifying the O line, I think they kind of go hand in hand. Like just like
Oh yeah, no, definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
it's like you go look just as the Falcons, for example. We had 1,000-yard rusher this year, I think, for the first time in several years. But it's because our offensive line actually stayed healthy for most of the year and actually did really good. So
Yeah.
having the ability to run the ball, because we all know how effective Josh Allen can be throwing the ball, and I think today was just a tough day for him in general. Him and Stephon Diggs, I think, struggled to connect. But also that being said, they played good defense. The Bengals did,
Oh, they
but
played great.
if they can establish the run and not rely on Josh Allen to be their sole runner. Like I
Yeah.
think I saw they only had 60 rushing yards, and Josh Allen once again was their leading rusher.
I will look.
Now they were behind for most of the game,
Yeah.
so that stat is a little skewed.
So 19 for 63. Josh Allen had 8 carries for 26 yards.
Yeah.
Devin
I
Singletary
think
had 6 for 24.
I think another thing also to kind of add on that, and this is I wouldn't say this would be the priority. I would say the priority would be trenches on both sides of the ball. But and I agree with the secondary portion and just getting more depth
Yeah.
and younger, but getting another serious number two because I think Gabe Davis is good, but it seemed like him and Isaiah McKenzie were not as effective as they were
Yeah.
last year. Stephon
Do you
Diggs is
think
great, but it almost seemed like that they had a regression. It
so?
almost seemed like.
Do you think
And I will say that I have not looked at Gabe Davis' stats from this year, last year, see if there was a drop or not. And so,
um no, I agree. Just eye test wise, it doesn't look
yeah,
like they were as consistently involved. I know Isaiah McKenzie was expected to have a big year and he did not at all.
mm-hmm.
For me, some of that I feel like has to do with the loss of Brian Dabble.
Yeah,
Uh and they hired Brian Dabble's understudy as the offensive coordinator. And so maybe it might just take him a couple years to kind of get everything
yeah,
back to the way it was, but there was a level of offensive sophistication that they just kind of lacked this year. And we talked about it on this podcast a couple times. It's like they just do things that like concern you. Like they're a little loose with the football. They make these amazing plays, but then Josh Allen will throw 2 red zone interceptions, or they'll fumble a ball inside their own 15 or something. Like it's those things that will cripple an offense. And today they didn't actually really do that. Josh Allen had 1 interception, but
and that 1 interception was, if I remember, was late in the game.
It was.
Yeah. So like those like are the same. Like if Dak Prescott would have thrown a 3rd interception on that final drive, like I almost wouldn't even count that because you're trying to force something. Those interceptions, there should almost be like an asterisk, as in like interceptions thrown in the first 59 minutes of the game, and then like interceptions thrown in the final 60 seconds. Like, and that's, I guess, last one I want to touch, because I know we were just very harsh on Dak Prescott, and I'm trying to think with Josh Allen, like what he could have done any differently. But it's like the defense wasn't stopping Cincinnati at any time. The offensive line wasn't really giving him. He had 8 pressures? You said
8 QB hits. That is
8 QB hits.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And so there might be even more pressures than just that. So he wasn't having enough time really to throw the ball. And I'm just trying to think of like what else Josh Allen could have done, but at the same time, it's just fallen short again for another year in a row. This time, just not to Patrick Mahomes, which is more concerning.
Yeah. Another thing, they had 8 penalties for 60 yards, which is that's a good amount.
Actually, and I think I saw, did Cincinnati have none?
They had 2 for 9.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's really good.
Yeah, no, definitely. So that, like, I don't know. Buffalo is really really close to being there. I just feel like they're missing a piece. Like,
well, it's the same thing though, and I remember we talked about this in the preseason, or the preview going into the season, and this will just be my last thing, and it reiterates back to the point. But we know how great Josh Allen can be throwing the ball. We know how explosive this offense can be with Stephon Diggs, and when Gabe Davis and Isaiah McKenzie are playing well, and also Dawson Knox really came on at the end as well. I think we saw a lot of good tight end play in all 4 divisional games. But it's been this issue for the past couple of years now. They cannot run the ball very well. It's like they're always top and rushing every year on average, but Josh Allen has half of those rushing yards, you know? So they need to go get a 1,000-yard rusher, or have the ability to have an 1,000-yard rusher, because you go look at a team like the Eagles. Well, it's fair, or the ability to have an 1,000-yard rusher. But you look at a team like the Eagles, they were up 21 points, right? No, 28 points at halftime.
Yeah.
I think the Giants go down and score. I'm trying to remember the game. I guess this will be a good segue. But then the Eagles got the ball, and then they took 8 minutes off the clock.
Yeah.
And they just ran the ball the entire way down the field, or they did a little 4-yard play action. So and the Bills can't do that. The Bills struggle to do that.
Yeah. And for me, I think if you look at Philly, they have a unique situation because Jalen Hurts is so elusive as a runner. But they have 4 guys like that can really run the ball. Like they have Miles Sanders, Boston Scott.
But as I said, it's not just that though. It doesn't matter who's in the back. But you look at the Eagles' offensive line to the Bills' offensive line, and they're a well-rounded group of guys.
So I don't think they need to go out and get a 1,000-yard rusher. I just think they need backs that can come in and they can just get 3 to 4 yards of carry, and like you said, beef up that O-line, get it to the point where they can have a set run game, because then that does a couple things. It opens up play action, takes the rushing pressure off Josh Allen, and it keeps Josh Allen out of harm's way more. Yeah. And I know Josh Allen is 6'5", 240 or whatever.
But there's going to
be a lot of linebackers in the league at that size too.
Well, and there's going to be a hit that gets him one of these days.
Yeah.
And it's so that's why like running backs don't have that, or don't have the longevity in the league for lots of reasons, and that's one of them. And you don't want your star quarterback to be doing that.
I want to say Josh Allen is coming up on 2 or 3 800-yard rushing seasons in a row.
That's close. I mean, that is a lot. So
yeah,
for a QB.
Yeah, in a way, that's Lamar Jackson like. Josh Allen had 762 this year. So
does that include playoffs?
No, he had.
Okay. So he had 800 yards then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you include playoffs, so
yeah.
But I think there's going to be a lot of thinking going on in the Bills offseason. Congrats to the Bengals. Got another great rematch.